we get into, I call it different ways of doing it. Um, if you wanted to, you could leave this part on the fish when you got the pattern, so you bandsaw that over the top, and then you can carve all that in if you like. So it'll look like that one. So it's kind of like a half. Or I like to do it what they call, these are, sometime you go out in the woods or something and you get stuck with these little, we call them hawthorns, with little, you cut them off the trees, and I bring the bunch back. And you start out a quarter of an inch, and you go every quarter of an inch, all the way across. Now there's about, sometimes there's 9 or 10 different ones, but everything stays in the center again. Everything we do on these all follows a line. So I'll draw 10 lines of that, cross them. You come in, you want to do it on an angle. So when I put them in, it'll flow back towards the back towards. So you insert, this is like a 3/32 drill bit I got on it. Go right to your line, just stick it right in it. So I get all them drilled through there, and you'll come back and pick some of these hawthorns and all you want. And nip off a little bit of that where you picked it off the tree, and it'll fit down in the hole. And you pick them across. So I just get them all lined up so everything kind of looks like it's nice and straight. And you don't want one hanging up and one hanging. You want a nice little curve going so that when they lay out, you'll see that they all lay in here. So what you'll see in here, when I get all of them fitted like I want, I just take a piece of tape and you run them across all of them. And when you pull them out, you'll be able to put the exact one back in the hole. Okay? So when you lay this out, all these will come out with it. And then as you put a piece of little glue in here, wood glue, I'll put a little dot of super glue, and then I'll insert each one separately. But you can take it, because you've laid it all on the tape, to take it off the tape, put it in, and each one will be back in the exact place you cut it out of. So basically that's all I do is I just take a little drop. Got them all back in place. They're all glued in. And you want to look down through when you're doing it so they all stay straight. If you get one leaning one way, or so then you got that super glue will lock it up pretty fast. So make sure everything stays straight back. You got your hawthorns in, and that's all. So you'll notice how this one, I glued it in here, and I'll show you what we do. This is just tissue paper. Maybe you'll know this is what you wrap all your presents with. So I get it so it kind of makes the curve, kind of fits that curve of the fish. So what you do when you get it there, we loop it through it, one over the other. Basically, what you're getting to now is you're getting every other one. You zigzag it through it. Little Elmer's glue. And then we'll paste them. Go right over that little, try to get a little underneath it so it'll stick to it. Get them so you want that paper to stick right to the hawthorn. It'll be nice and tight. So when you get done gluing it, it'll be real thin versus a real, if you do the, these are kind of heavy. The line, now that's nice and just like a real fish would be, real thin in here with that tissue paper. So you just I'll give it all in and I just keep giving coats um, over it. I kind of hold my finger so it don't slide around. Because when you're putting the glue on it, paper likes to slide a little. And the one on the back, you take and put a little right on the back of it here, so that when you push that paper down, it sticks right onto the carved fin. So it'll give you that look where it's tight on there. So you get them all glued and keep pasting. You might come back, let it dry a little while, come back, give her another coat, give her 2 or 3 coats of, you can mix with water, kind of thin it down, and just keep giving it thin, but you want them to stick. You want them to stick, each right up to the point. That'll give you kind of, we'll have it like that. Little block of wood up here so you can see. After I get, these will be on an angle. So you take and you'll burn it from that tip up. I kind of lay it down and then you can see now I'm burning, so now it gives you that little tip onto it. You can come back here with a little sandpaper and kind of clean them up, or you can just kind of, it'll melt it into it. Watch, you don't want to get too much into these hawthorns, it'll burn the tip right off. So you gotta take it nice and slow and easy, but you want that little groove in them. No, this is just a straight bit. Just push it and curve it around them. But I have, like you were saying, you take your, taking my round bit, I make the scales with, get that good, and I'll actually can melt that into, just a little bit into that. And now you got your curves and the little points of all the fins sticking up. You can, sometimes they get a little thick up here, you can take a little sandpaper. Careful with that too, but you can clean that up just a little bit. Try to take some of the, and you got your fins doing. You do the same. The bottom, I've got 3 of them in the bottom. Some will do anywhere from 10 to 11 across the top. You have one. You can count them on your pattern. You got the 3 on the bottom. And you get that shape. So now I got it all scaled. I'll sometimes I'll take it and drill a hole in the bottom. And I insert my stick into the bottom that so I can paint it. You get it here, you got it all scaled. Eyes will be set. I fell out here someplace. Then you come in with a clear lacquer. You want to seal your fish before you, because if you try to put paint on it now, it'll absorb it. So you take white or a clear lacquer, dull, anything, and just give it a spray, a clear lacquer, dry it. Let it dry real good. And that can set. And I get into making my fins. So I showed you on the pattern. Do that pattern. Had the fins were designed. So I'll take and cut them out of the paper and I'll glue them on my block. And just to get some real good check your grandkids or whatever, get to take it. I paste it on the back and I glue them onto the board. And I can bandsaw them down. And this is where you do the same thing we did the other. You do a curve in it. When you got to watch, because you want this side to be the same as this, because so if you look at the way this point is over on this side, so I want it to be the same on this one. Go over and go down. And then I draw a halfway line on this. I draw a halfway line on here. So basically you're trying to blend everything to half. So basically, once we got it curved, we're going to start carving it. We start with that, and we'll curve it like that one, okay? I got just a little drum sander that you run it. Basically, I just, because of the way I had that line on there, the curve is on this side. So that one, and we're going to flip it on this side. And you can see it's starting to give that little bit of shape to it. So that when you blend it back, it'll come right down. You'll get to your point of view on that one. So after I got my shape that I like, I'm both sanded all down. Come back in and draw your lines like you did the same. Come back in with that, follow the lines back. Make sure that all the little ones will match up with each other so you don't, and then you can come back and scribe that into it. And you'll end up with a set of fins. So I lacquer it up before I start to set my fins. That's a big trick I did. So I take a cone type cut saw bit is what these are, and I start to grind into here and flow that in there. So we can kind of draw it right here. So again, I laid that out, and I'll take a compass. I kind of bent this so that I can put it right on the nose of what I got. Come back here and see where that started. Roll it over and make sure it starts with that one over here. So that keeps your fin the same on each side of your fish. And you can do wherever how you want to lay it. And go back and get that side. Then I can come in, take it real easy because it'll take off. You just kind of give yourself a little straight line across. And then I start working my way deeper. And you'll see that now that I work that, and you'll carve it, and then you start fitting it so that your fin, now if you look at your fin, see how it curves towards the body and the top curves away on the bottom. So that's why when you're making them, you have a left side and a right side. So that, see if I put this one on this side, they're the wrong direction. So you better make sure when you lay that out that that one I did, so that when I got that curve on here, that point and this point are the same. And you get that curve will be the same curve on this side. So when I do on the bottom, they'll fit. It'll be the opposite side of your fish. So that's for your. And you can get them to fit in between. Well, when I take on the bottom, you'll see where I've not. They'll come by your pattern. Look at your pattern. You'll see where that one is, and you'll see where your other fin comes strictly right below it. We've had competition. They look at that. If you do it with any fish, they're going to see where that fin is inserted. So you don't want to back forward, follow it where they say put it, because that's where they're going to get you on if you're going to go that way. So basically, I got that one here. So you got that. This fin will curve to the inside the fish. That one curves to the inside of the fish on this side, and when you do the opposite ones, it'll do the same on each side. So I'll just take, oops. A little bit too much. Now I'll put a little drop of super glue so when you put it in here, it locks in. same thing with the bottom one. Now we got our fins mounted. If you're mounting this on the wall or a plaque, you need to only do one side of your fish. So that would be, and if you're going to do it on a mount, piece of driftwood, or then you've got to do both sides of your fish to determine where you want to go with it, how much you got to keep. I'll usually do all the scales and that, but then when it comes to the fin, I just do one side. So you got your fins are fitted here. You can go either way with them eyes, whatever way we want it. But then we go back to the I got that fitted. I take a little putty and I'll fill in right where that, you'll see where it's kind of groovy here. Take a little putty and fill that in nice and there. And then when you get that, you can come back with a little, pretty set. You can come back in here after that putty and just finish them lines that you did. You can just come in there. You see how fast that super glue will lock that in. And now if you brought that right back, fill it, it'll fill right back where you got it. Any questions? Pretty well got it now. We'll seal it, and then we're ready. At that point, after you seal it, I paint it with just some white, flat black, flat white paint, excuse me. And then you'll find there's some videos that we have out for, that's why I did a bluegill, because one of our members had a video on painting the bluegill, so you can go into the videos, show you how to paint the bluegill. So there's some ones in scaling, there's some different videos in that we have in there for scaling. You can look up different people's way of scaling. And I did tell you, there's a little bit, if you notice the nostrils, you just take and poke a hole with this pointed bit. Usually that is on the top part of the eye going across. So then you just poke it. Use your two little nostrils. Any questions? Yeah, well, yes. You want to just keep layering that in there. I kind of get it to each one of the hawthorn. Stick it because you want it to be right to the point. So I don't do them all. Then as I get it to stick and it dries, then now I'll come in here and I'll keep pasting the glue, and that gives you that whole fine, like thin, real fine, thin look. That's because the glue soaked in with your tissue paper. Now, at that point, after that's dried, I know it's sticking, then I can thin it down with a little glue and a little water and just kind of blend it until you get it to match up. And then you notice right on the bottom, you see the opening gap here on the bottom of that? You take your glue and just fill that right in. Let it dry. It'll fill them gaps in so that you got it nice and tight like we have on here, so nice and tight to it. Yep. Huh? Yeah, I didn't bring I have a little tool that does that. Some people you take toothpick, but what she's talking is the lateral line. And it comes from the center, goes up, curves, and comes up to the top here. Now you can take I used to do it before, I take a little glue and a toothpick, and I just make little dots all the way down that line. So that when you paint it, there'll be a little dotted line. That's what they call the lateral line. So you'll see on the pattern where it comes out, goes out, and comes back to the center again. It goes up. So you just take I took glue, or is that a sewing the little fine, come on, I think it came out of a sewing center, and you can just push that right into a little indent, looks like a waffle, and it'll put a little indent to that when you get your lateral line in there. Thank you, I forgot all about that one. No, I don't drill through. I just go depth, and then I just do it the first time when I'm doing it, and then when I get ready to fit my eyes, it determines what I'm going to either go with the beads, or if I'm like different eyes that I buy, so I can insert depth I got to have. Sometimes on like a trout, you want to curve your, you ever look at your trout, their eyes are on a little angle. So you'll actually drill it so it's a little angle. Then when you put it in, you got your eyes a little. Bluegills are usually all straight. But, so it depends. The cheapest one I like is if just doing them little ones I buy from Cabela's. They look real good. And after that's all done, I usually take like putty, what do you call that, carving putty, and I'll put it on the eye, and I'll push it on the eye so that when I paint it white, that I don't paint my eye if I'm doing a colored eye. But if I'm doing these little beads, I just paint them. But you're basically going to come back and you'll paint the gold circle and the black dot in the center by hand. But if you're going to put a custom bought eye, put some putty or something. They do a paste you can buy too. It's just paint over it. It'll clear, but when you can peel it off, so that when you paint your fish and you come back, and then when I get it all done, I come back with fingernail hardener that you use on your fingernails, and I'll put it right over, and it'll give you a glossy, real glossy look to your eye. Just hit it with a little bit of that hard gloss, and it's really sharp. It really lightens your eyes up, brightens them up when you do that. Or you can take masking tape, fit it in there, cut it real sharp with a knife, and then keep it tight. So then when you take it off, you don't take the paint off around the eye. You want it to be right to the shape of the eye. Yeah, usually 10, axle is usually between 10 to 12. Depending on, if you get a bigger one, I know that when I get a bigger fish, I can go a little more on them. But when they're smaller, I usually stay in a number around 9 or 10. If you don't want it coming out way down on the bottom, you want it to stay right up to the top. So, these got 9 on that one. Changes. So it depends on the size, how many I get on there. But you do want to stay at least 9 to 10 minimum. Or you get bigger, 11 is really, I think this is 11. There's 11 on the print, so go that way. I don't, when you're just making them to sell them, nobody counts them. But if you're going competition, it makes a difference where you're inserting them, and then where they come out underneath. They gotta be certain places. You don't want it back further or up forward. It fouls so that it goes right below the point of that up in there. And they look at that when I'm talking about the curvature. They look at that. He actually put a card on it to make sure that I'm not flat. It makes it harder when you're in here in this area to get that curve. It basically out of it ain't there. So I try to get it when I get to the back, right here, I can do it. But when you're right up underneath that here, it's kind of real tough to get that because you only got so much meat to work with. Any other questions?